so I'm back and I'm Randall Bird and welcome to my next video. If you've been following along with me, this is actually the third video in this series, but if you haven't been, then welcome to my first video. So what I really want to do is I just really want to get you kind of caught up on what we've been talking about. So I've been talking to you a little bit about who I am and this theory that I'm sharing with you and teaching you about, and it's called the box theory. So for those of you who were with me before, remember that I had a box and I was kind of drawing it out, and we were talking about I had family on one side for a long time, and I had on the other side was kind of that playful youth that I had when I was a child, playing with my toys or my imagination or just experiencing the world and out exploring the world, enjoying life. And then we talked about that things happened when I was young, and kind of lost my mom because she got really sick, and my dad was going through a rough time. He's a kind of an entrepreneur, and he was losing his company down in Dallas, Texas. So at this point of the story, we've moved back up to Salt Lake City, Utah, and we're still talking about this theory of a box. Now, how does that relate to you? I told you about the boxes inside of me, and that's kind of where we started this whole thing, was that I like to kind of conceive that maybe all of us have a box inside of us. You may refer to that as, I don't know exactly how you're going to refer to that. I just refer to it as a box, and that works for me, and so hopefully you can stay with me. But I've got, what I believe is that I've kind of got a box inside of me, and what we fill it with is what's important. So I started to fill mine right about junior year in high school with friends on one side, and a lot of uncertainty and fear on the other side. So kind of what happened is as I was growing up, I was kind of starting to lose my identity. I was going through some major problems with fear, uncertainty, wondering, through those very vital years of my youth, of wondering who I was, where I could stand, who I could, who was going to support me, who was going to give me what I needed, which was love and acceptance. And a lot of that was taken out of my life when my mother got sick and my dad had to go through a lot of other things. So the reason I bring that up is that my friends then became really my family. And I started to then find identity through that. So we talk about certain topics like identity drugs. And my identity drug was that I was kind of the misfit, if you will. So I was going through this whole thing of being a misfit. What I realized when I started to learn was that a lot of my friends also kind of quoted or were kind of put themselves in that same bracket as maybe a little bit of a misfit. And a misfit to us meant that we just were different than a lot of society. So we wore our hair different. I actually had a mohawk. I've actually had my hair 1,000 different colors. I wore different clothes. I used to wear a lot of my combat boots, and just a lot of kind of punk or new wave or whatever you want to call it back then. I was really heavy into, we were all real heavy into that. And our friends were what was important to us. So whatever was going on with our friends was where our identity was found. And on top of that, I covered everything up with the uncertainty and the fear of not knowing who I was and where I was coming from with alcohol and drugs. And so I was fine when I was drunk, or I was fine when I was high. Other than that, most of the time I had to deal with those feelings of feeling inadequate, uncertain, a lot of fear of what was going to happen. I'd been moved from Dallas to Utah, and I'd been living with somebody that was not my mom or my dad. It was my aunt, who was very much a disciplinarian, and she strongly believed in laying down the law, which I did not get along with that at the time. I was really into needing love and support, and she was not able to give that. And so it was me and my little brother, who was about 4 years younger than me, really started to bond at that point. And really became the best friends, and really we were the ones that had to rely on each other. And so I don't want you to get the wrong picture as well, because as I remember as a kid, when I was 5, 6, 7 years old, and probably younger than that, but that's when most of my memories go back about that far. I do remember my mom being really loving, caring, supportive, but as she got sick, I started to lose that. I do remember her whole family, brothers and sister, and my grandparents being very loving, tender, caring. But that all changed as well. She got sick and things started to happen. Things with her family started to change a lot, and there became a major distance there. So I'm talking about this whole concept simply because I think what we start to then fill this box up with becomes really important. And for me, it became drugs, alcohol, and my friends. And so what I wasn't establishing who I was or who I am at that point in my life. And so I don't know how many of you feel like maybe you feel inadequate, or you feel uncertain, or you feel fear. And what I'd like to ask you to do from this video is I'd like for you to kind of think about this box that you have inside of you. And what do you fill it up with? Okay, what do you fill this box with? And I know a lot of my friends have gone through divorce. They've lost a family member to one thing or another, death or whatever it may be. They've lost friends maybe. And I think a lot of times we have this box and we start to then lose our identity because we start to lose half of it. So maybe our box feels really empty. We've only got half of it full. And so what do we start to put in here? What goes here for you and for me? What are you going to find in your life? And what I'm learning is that this is really our purpose. Our sole purpose is this whole box. But how do we get past the junk? How do we clear out the clutter so that we can really see what that purpose is? So we can really determine where it is we really need to go and what decisions we need to make. And I want to talk about that more in the next few videos. So once again, just keep in mind, I just kind of want you to take a look and maybe do an inventory of what you fill your life with. Is it your children? Is it your spouse? Is it your job? Is it sports? Is it music like it's been for me? Mine has been sports, music, movies, anything that I can kind of escape into. And I've replaced a lot of my drugs and alcohol. I've mentioned, I think before, that I've put that to the side, the drugs and alcohol, for about 10 years now, and I've started to put other more positive things into my box, including my wife and my daughter. So I want you to, from this video, just to kind of make an inventory of what you're filling your box with. And I'll share some of the things in more detail that I filled my box with in the next few videos. So I'm Randall Bird. Remember to have a vision for your life, create the biggest impact and legacy you can in your world, and generate those results that you're looking to generate. I'm Randall Bird.